In only 30 minutes following Jerome Powell's live press conference, crypto lost $70 billion and the stock market performed even worse. Is this a sign that stagflation is coming, as Jerome Powell kind of hinted, or is this a little bit of a misdirection move? What comes next for the crypto and traditional markets? We're going to cover all of that in today's video, so stick around all the way to the end. All of our listeners who come in every single day, you know the drill. Make sure to smash that like button. If you're new here, make sure to stick around to the end. And if you like this channel, hit that subscribe button. All right, let's go. Welcome, everybody. We got a big one to talk about today. After a lot of bullish sentiment had started to creep in, even coming from the Fed themselves, Jerome Powell took a stage today and wasn't as kind to markets with some of the remarks that he made. We're going to go into detail on that news, as well as some other big news as well, coming out of China and more updates on the tariff front. We'll be taking a look at a lot of different charts, asking you guys some questions. You guys ask us some questions. We'll answer a little bit later on the show. But before we get into those details, I want to ask how my two great co-hosts are doing for today's fun Wednesday afternoon live show. Again, starting next week, this will be the only afternoon live show during the week, so get used to Wednesday fun days. Doesn't come off the tongue as good as Friday fun day. But Smay, how are we doing today? You got a burnt orange shirt there. How's that burnt orange shirt treating you?
May I introduce Wacky Wednesday?
Wacky Wednesday.
Wonderful Wednesday. How about Wonderful Wednesday? Anyways, I'm doing great, Tim. How about you?
I'm doing good. I hit some golf balls today for the first time in 2 weeks. I sucked. I don't know what happened the last 2 weeks. My swing sucked today. But other than that, I'm doing pretty good.
It's the real Tim emerging.
I know, for real. Tshroom, how you doing, my friend?
Well, I'm doing better than I deserve, Tim, and I would think I would cast my lot with Wedgie Wednesday or Wyckoff Wednesday.
Wyckoff Wedgie Wednesday. That's probably not going to be a poll. Let us know in the comments, though, if you like Wedgie or Wonderful. Wonderful
What about
Wednesday?
Woeful Wednesday? Woeful Wednesday.
All right. Well, speaking of Woeful Wednesday, today is a little bit of a Woeful Wednesday, so you might not be off there, Smay. Really quickly, let's take a look at the charts before we get into all of the news. NVIDIA, we're going to have a story about NVIDIA today. They're coming back down after bouncing back up. They came back down towards $86 here a couple of weeks ago, bounced back up above 100. Now they're pushing that limit once again. Will we get a bounce here on NVIDIA? We did open a nice little gap here this morning. Can we fill that gap, or do we have a lot more bleeding to go with NVIDIA? The S&P 500 continuing to take a little bit of a splash. You're going to see the crypto markets actually are bouncing back since Jerome Powell left the stage here a couple of minutes ago. SPY's not so happy. NVIDIA's dropping, SPY's dropping. The VIX, we've been talking about the VIX. It's actually getting a little bit of a surge back today, not dropping very cleanly. It's bouncing. We're going to take a look at the details on these charts here in just a little bit. Like I said, Bitcoin fell here after rallying back up today, back above 85,000, almost to 500, 85,500. In fact, I think it did get there in 30 minutes. As Jerome Powell took the stage, in 30 minutes, the price of Bitcoin plummeted all the way back down to prices we hadn't seen since, late last night, early this morning. Yeah, it came back down towards 83,250. But what's very important to understand is this right here, the fact that in those 30 minutes, $70 billion came out of the crypto markets. And as we are looking for a small rebound, because there were some things that Jerome said on the crypto front specifically that could end up being bullish, it is something to be aware of. He talked about, I don't know if he actually used the exact word, but if you read into the details of what he said, he hinted that possible stagflation could be here. Now, some of you know exactly what stagflation is. You go off my chart now, Smay. We're going to talk about it here in a little bit. We're about to get in the news. If you don't know what stagflation is, stick around. We'll talk about it. If you do know what it is, let me know in the comments right now. Do you believe that's what Jerome Powell was hinting at? Do you think that it's coming? We're going to answer those questions here in just a little bit. But for more of the details of what you need to know in the news for today, I got to throw it to my man Tshroom. Shroomy, Go ahead and take us away on this woeful Wednesday.
Absolutely, Tim. We've got quite a bit to discuss here. We'll start at the White House, which says China now faces tariffs of up to 245% on imports to the U.S. This is up from that 145% number as a result of retaliatory actions. So, escalation coming from the USA side, from the White House. After that, we had a bit of a response here from the Chinese Foreign Ministry spokesman Lin Zhan. John, he said, stop threatening and blackmailing and talk to China on the basis of equality, respect, and mutual benefit. There's the foreign ministry spokesman. Looks very serious, very, very business. Continues here. Japan scheduling negotiation tariffs and military support costs with the U.S. today. The meeting will include the United States President, Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent, and Commerce Secretary Howard Lutnick. So you're getting the whole platter there. That does signal importance to the world stage. If you've got all three of them, then you are getting the White House's full attention. And the commentary here from Investing Bros Twitter was Japan is about to get an amazing deal. Let me know down in the comments, do you agree with that? I tend to agree that they're going to get a good deal. In fact, it seems like everybody's fighting over Japan because Japan's government pension fund says it will switch to foreign equity investment benchmark to include domestic Chinese shares. So in the same breath, in the same news cycle that the United States is presenting all three of their major economic people from the current administration, Japan is also pivoting and allowing some allocation to Chinese domestic shares. So an interesting juxtaposition. It's a great time to be Japan right about now. Moving along here, not so great news. NVIDIA says the U.S. government has banned them from selling H20s chips to China for the indefinite future. NVIDIA says this will come with a $5.5 billion charge to Q1 earnings. Tim, we'll have to take a look here at NVIDIA's chart because I believe it was down more than 10% on the day. CNBC ran with the headline saying this: chip stocks drop as NVIDIA and AMD warn of higher costs from China export controls. And there you see that 5.5 number there in their summary. So that is really the roundup today for tariffs. That's the updated information. Not a whole lot of movement in a positive direction, but we did get an increase in tariffs on China by the U.S., and we got a bit of rhetoric from one of the finance ministers saying, hey, stop bullying us, treat us as equals with respect. So that is essentially what we're seeing today. A little bit more of the same, but those tariffs just keep going up.
Yeah, I think I might be a little forward on this, right? So take what I'm saying with a grain of salt, but this is looking like the beginnings of Cold War 2.0, right? I don't know if it's going to escalate into any actual physical warfare. I don't think weapons will be used, but just like we spent a lot of the late 1900s, into the early 2000s had that Cold War with Russia, Soviet Union, which became Russia, obviously. Historical people will like that I made that distinction. It's very much looking like Cold War 2.0 with China happening right now. We're watching China work on their non-American trade deals to try to offset some of the losses they'll make from America. We know the United States is working with countries and kind of working in opposition to China. Again, that NVIDIA story saying it plainly, hey, come build here in the United States. We know that NVIDIA is investing over $500 billion of infrastructure here in the United States. But by the way, you're not allowed to do business with China. That's not going to be the last headline we see of a choosing between the United States, working with the United States consumers or working with Chinese consumers. Something that we did hear from Trump's administration just yesterday. The most powerful thing in the world when you're looking at the economies is the American consumer. So I still think you give an edge to the Americans in this Cold War 2.0, but it's going to be very interesting to see how this plays out. Hopefully it's not long. Hopefully things are decided quickly. I did see a rumor, and I don't think you found this one, Tshroom, and I'm not going to go chase the rabbit down the hole. There was a rumor that there's some backdoor conversations happening that while the focal points of America and Chinese leaders are going at each other publicly, behind the scenes, there's some cooler heads talking and working some details. So I'm praying, I'm hoping things come to a head and get solved sooner than later. But again, until we know for certain, until there's certainty there, those tariff confusions, chaos, whatever you want to call it, it's going to continue. It's going to continue to affect the markets. I'm just hoping not so bad. But speaking of how things are affecting the markets, we're going to talk about the Fed here in a little bit. This actually probably would have been a good transition to Fed, but I want to cover a different story first, right? A lot of people talking about what Jerome Powell just said. We're going to cover that here in a couple minutes. But there was a major, what should have been bearish headline today. The markets did not sell off, but there was a bearish headline also coming from China. Tshroom, what is China doing right now that should have sent Bitcoin prices plummeting, but yet they didn't?
Yeah, absolutely. Usually we don't cover rumors, but this is a rumor that is a little bit of validity. So this is Chinese local governments are reporting liquidating 15,000 Bitcoin. That means you're hearing that right. Selling Bitcoin to the tune of 1.26 billion at the time of writing this tweet of seized crypto assets via offshore private entities to bolster fiscal reserves amid economic challenges. I wonder what challenges those might be, despite the national trading ban. So, Tim, essentially, China's selling Bitcoin. That's the rumor, at least.
And I think specifically what people need to understand here is they are more than likely, I think I saw a different tweet talking about they were doing it over the counter, right? So if you're wondering why you didn't see a volume splash, if this story is true, and we have every reason to believe it is true, why wasn't there a volume splash? Well, they sold it over the counter. The same reason why when Michael Saylor and MicroStrategy buy Bitcoin, we don't see Bitcoin shoot up, despite the fact they'll buy hundreds of millions, if not billions of dollars worth at a time. You don't get a spike from those because it's over the counter. You didn't see a drop in price or a spike in volume with selling pressure with China doing it. But here's where we are getting to in the Bitcoin markets that I think is very intriguing. And I want to know what you guys in the comments think. If you go back to January, right, we peaked out. We got $109,000 in January. January 20th, Donald Trump takes the Oval Office here in the United States, and that was the top, right? We have not gotten back to those levels since that day. And since then, there's been this overall feeling that anytime that there's somewhat good news, it's a nothing burger, nothing happens. When there's bad news or even a hint of bad news, the markets plummet. What we have seen happen here recently, and I'm talking about the last week and some change, good news as Fed, and we're going to transition here to Fed story in a second, but as Fed members come out saying, hey, we are willing and have tools to help the markets if there ends up being a problem, good news all of a sudden pumped the price of Bitcoin pretty substantially. And then we get this bad news that China is selling their Bitcoin, and maybe later tonight something happens. I'm not going to say we haven't or not going to respond negatively, but as of right now, there's headlines out there saying China is selling $2 billion of Bitcoin, 15,000 Bitcoin, and yet the markets on that news did not fall. Have we switched into a bullish trend just for the side of we for months had bad news equals bad prices, good news equals nothing? It seems like this last week, good news has equaled pumps and bad news has been nothing. That being said, we did just again see $70 billion lost in the crypto markets in 30 minutes. Are they going to rebound? All of this becoming from Jerome Powell taking the stage, talking about what the future of the American economy looks like. He discussed tariffs. He discussed immigration. He discussed crypto a little bit. Tshroom, break down for anyone who didn't hear, doesn't know what happened with Jerome Powell. What just happened about an hour ago, and how should people process his press conference, being bullish or being bearish?
Yeah, absolutely. I think it can be summarized pretty well. This Zero Hedge post says Powell asked if the Fed will intervene if the stock market plummets. Powell said no with an exclamation, and the stock market plummeted on that that very word. Now, I think to remember, I think that the market was starting to bake in the opposite of this response, because we'd heard from two other Fed voting members saying just the opposite, that they have tools. Remember, we showed you this chart here of all the different tools that the Fed has. They've got the rate cuts, but they've also got the OMO, the open market operations, the quantitative easing, the discount window, the repurchasing agreements, the standing facilities. But when asked today, point blank, at the Chicago Economic Council, whatever that is, he said no. He said no, that they would not inject in liquidity into the market if the stock market plummets. So a little bit concerning, and the market did not like that. wanted to hear something else. We did also get the spread on poly market, a little bit of an adjustment. There's now only 2 points, 2 percentage points between a cut and no cut, 25 basis points, still ahead by 2%. And don't worry, nothing happened to your precious July. The spread is still significantly wide there. But the gambling markets are not being very favorable to what we saw today from Jerome Powell. Again, just a 2-point spread there between no change, meaning no cut, and a cut in June. It's pretty much a given that May will not have a cut. But Tim, that's essentially what we heard. Now, there was a little bit of a silver lining here because Fed Chair Jerome Powell says he thinks there will be loosening of bank rules on crypto. That's not really in his hands. That's just his opinion. So there's a little bit of a silver lining there. But Tim, the markets did not like what they heard from Jerome Powell today.
Yeah, they didn't like it at first. Again, the stock market has not necessarily had a rebound. I would call what we're watching happen in Bitcoin right now. Let's just really quickly look at the chart. It hasn't taken back all of the gains, but you can see here, if we're looking at the 1 hour chart, again, in a 30-minute time frame is when this big blue candle, this negative candle happened. That was Jerome Powell speaking. We bounced back up and eliminated half of that loss, right? So I'm not saying we're pumping again. I'm not saying we're for certain going to outpace this by tomorrow. I'm just saying there's a rebound that has happened there with Bitcoin. You can see other altcoins looking kind of the same. That's Ethereum's chart right there. That's XRP's chart right there. Solana actually is very close to gaining all of those losses back. What is happening with Solana? They're having a nice little pump today, outpacing the rest of the market. The stock market's not necessarily as lucky. Let me go to the 1 hour chart here. This is NVIDIA's chart. It's just continued to bleed. As Tshroom mentioned earlier, it's down 10% from where we closed yesterday's candle. You look at the S&P 500, it has not recovered, right? So TradFi markets listen to Jerome Powell, and they are taking this hard. They are tanking after a nice bounce back or last week and some change. Gold didn't even blink. Like gold didn't stop to say hello. They are just bullish here for the last couple of days. They are taking off new highs again here today. We're over 3,300. We touched $3,340 per ounce of gold. What's my overall take here? You can go off my screen, Smay. The crypto markets and the hedge against inflation markets, gold, bouncing back nicely, or gold just rallying despite all this other things. TradFi is not doing well. As a whole, I think that this was the first time, I want to say this and we'll kind of move on. There was a level of vagueness still to Jerome Powell. I wouldn't call the overall press conference extremely bearish, but it's definitely not bullish, right? It's definitely not bullish, but it's not extremely clear what was happening. But he leaned hawkish. And something I've been very adamant about, I've had a lot of respect for Jerome Powell over the last 2 years, I would say, that he seems to stay away from heavy political rhetoric. He seems to be focused on his job. He doesn't really take sides. While there's been moments where it looks like you start to see his colors of where he views policy and other things, he's been very good about being vague on policy, about saying, I'm focused on inflation, I'm focused on unemployment, I'm going to do what I need to do. When asked about tariffs in the past, he kind of gives vague answers. When asked about policy, he kind of gives vague answers. While it's very clear he's not a fan of Donald Trump, he refuses, even given the opportunity to smash Trump and to go against him publicly, he refuses to take those opportunities, right? So I've shown Jerome Powell a lot of respect for staying pretty neutral. Today, I think he let it slip just a little bit which way he leans politically, okay? And he wasn't clear here, but there definitely was this feeling. Let me know in the comments if you agree with me on this. And maybe you agree with Jerome Powell. That's okay, but let me know if you agree with me. He was very clear. We have to wait for the data. We're not certain yet. There's a lot of uncertainty ahead. But with his comments that lean towards we might be facing a combination of higher inflation and not being able to control the unemployment numbers, despite the fact that inflation numbers here recently have looked very favorable, unemployment numbers have actually looked kind of likable as well. He hinted at the uncertainty of the tariffs. Of course, these tariffs coming from the Trump administration bring so much uncertainty that we could be heading for stagflation. He could have easily stayed down the middle or said, hey, we don't know what can happen. What could happen in the future is really good. He chose to spread a little more fear, uncertainty, and doubt than he has in the past. Now, whether what he said was true or not, you could agree with everything he said. That's fine. what I've been applauding him for the last 2 years is him not taking a conservative or liberal approach to policy, just talking about inflation and unemployment. Today, it seemed like he leaned a little bit in the camp of, let me put pressure on the Trump administration. These tariffs are bad. Let's scare the American public into thinking stagflation or bad things can happen unless we have some sort of clarity. It was a little bit of a shift from what I normally expect from him. Like, again, I'm not going to comment on whether I agree with him or not. You guys let me know in the comments. Do you agree with him? Do you not? But hopefully, hopefully, let me know. Do you also agree? Did he seem to let a little bit of his political colors show today? Very out of character for who Jerome Powell normally is. We're going to take a look at the charts here in just a second. But Tshroom, I want to give you a second maybe to respond to that. Is that how you felt? Did you feel like he was a little more neutral? What are your thoughts on that?
He's in Chicago. He knows that a lot less people are paying attention to this speech than that listen to his FOMC decision speeches. So it kind of makes sense that he might let his cards show a little bit more. With that said, it wasn't pronounced. You really had to be like us, super Federal Reserve nerds. Like, we spend way too much time studying and thinking about the Federal Reserve and the rhetoric from the different chairmen to see the light through the door of which way Jerome Powell might be thinking politically. But to the average person listening, I don't think you really would have taken away one way or another what Jerome Powell is thinking politically. So yes, I think what you're saying is true, but I think you really have to have an ear for it to catch that.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. And with that said, let's go ahead and transition into charts. You guys you want to hear about a lot of charts. Let's just start off. I'm not even going to do that much technical analysis here because I don't want to use this analysis time to potentially look for a resistance level. Gold is a great place to invest. I mean, it's been a great place to invest. Let's not talk about massive returns, right? Gold, and I think this is the future of gold, is going to continue to be a safe, keyword safe, place to store your value. Maybe not as great of a long-term hold as Bitcoin. Maybe not, gonna make you a bunch of money. Maybe like a new technology stock position or new crypto can get you. But if you look at it, gold has been extremely solid here over the last couple of months, last couple of years. Really, the last major pullback we had, I wouldn't even call this major. You look at the bear market in 2022, gold merely pulled back 21%. Safe investment. If you had bought gold back here in November of 2022, back when Bitcoin bottomed out, right now your portfolio would be up 100%. Okay? Very safe. It's not quite the same returns, even with all of this pullback happening on Bitcoin. I just want to make sure we're clear here. If you had bought Bitcoin November of 2022, you would have made more money. I'm not going to show you the altcoin space necessarily. Some of you being lost. Some of them you'd had a lot more gains. But let's say you bought Bitcoin and gold at the same exact time, despite the 30% pullback that Bitcoin's had here. Bitcoin is still up 440% from November 2022, and we have gold up 100%, right? But you see no pullbacks. You see no major crashes in the gold markets. I'll go ahead and let you guys know, even though I don't think that people necessarily should invest in gold over Bitcoin, to say that investing in gold is foolish is just wrong, right? This is a very strong store of value. Whether you're concerned about the dollar, you're concerned about the crypto markets, gold has been very safe. So in times where we need to be safe, gold is holding up very well. In times where risk on is back, you probably want to switch your gold holdings into something more like Bitcoin, maybe even to a riskier crypto asset. That being said, I say all this to say part of your proper diversification should still be gold, and I don't see this being signs of it slowing down whatsoever. Even if there's a minor pullback, you will hold your value very, very well in gold. Where your value is not holding up necessarily as nicely right now is over in the TradFi markets. Let's take a look at the S&P 500. After bottoming out at a level of support we identified weeks ago down here at 4,800, we did skyrocket back up almost to $5,500. Well, today we're continuing that dip. Jerome Powell's sentiment is sending the TradFi markets back down. And right now, I think you should have your eyes a little bit back down here towards 5,100. on the S&P 500 could be the next stop there. You go in here and take a look at daily charts, even though we had a buy signal coming on the daily chart just not that long ago. We didn't quite get to our smart trail. There's a lot of things that can play out between now and then. Let's look at the 4-hour chart. This is where I think you're going to start seeing concerns. 4-hour chart bounced up, hit our smart trail. We now have, excuse me, a sell signal in play. Red reversal, bearish momentum, negative money flow. Do not be surprised whatsoever to come back down to the next major level of support, 5,100. I wonder if there's another level other than that that people should have on their radar, but I think this is going to be the next one that really should be watched out for here at $5,100. That could be the next place we see a bounce on the S&P 500. Unless we hear some other big news come in before we get there and it spikes the markets back up, my imagination is right now people are selling off to come back down towards that level. The VIX, after having days of cooling off and coming back down to ground, it's starting to starting to rally here once again. So as that VIX extends, as it goes back to the upside, we're probably going to watch the stock market continue to fall back down. But if I move out to longer time frames, we're still under this watch right now. Whenever you see the VIX shoot up within a short time frame, short number of days, like we did just here early April, you go back historically, these have marked major bottom patterns for the stock market. You go back to summer 2024 when the Japanese carry trade, there was a lot of concern there. You go back to COVID back in March of 2020. You come back over here to February of 2018. These are all areas where the VIX skyrocketed, cooled off, and local bottoms were put in place for the stock market, for crypto. Even though we have a slight rally happening here today, I still think that VIX has given us a major bottom signal. I'm still in long-term bullish, just expecting the S&P 500 to maybe cool off here just a little bit more. NVIDIA, again, as we said, 10% move to the downside. That's actually continuing here. Some good news. We did open up a nice gap right in here. So if you were to go ahead and put a nice gap for NVIDIA, not saying we have to close this out today or even tomorrow, but this will be something to keep an eye on. Historically, especially gaps to the upside, seem to get closed faster than gaps to the downside sometimes. We now have this gap. Any type of good news could spark us, and all of a sudden, NVIDIA's flying back up. With that said, though, we are starting to see some negativity coming in even as high as the daily chart here, where when we had a buy signal just a little bit ago, bullish divergence, bullish momentum, positive money flow, you had targets for NVIDIA. Let's see, all the way up here at $126. Not saying that's off the table. I'm just saying today, what's happening in this price action, we did just print a gray or bearish momentum dot. I'm sure if we were to go towards lower time frames like the 4-hour chart, just like we saw with the Dixie, red reversal, bearish momentum, negative money flow here on the 4-hour chart, that's going to give us a target to come back down here somewhere between $98 to $94 before we find a little level of footing there for NVIDIA. Could we see a bounce right there? Do we get some sort of break in the news that skyrockets the price back up? We'll keep you posted on NVIDIA charts over the next couple of days. Stick around with us. Let's transition over into the crypto markets, though. Taking a look, starting off with Bitcoin. Again, just looked at that. Despite all of the bearishness, we are still from bear market bottoms up over 400% in this bull market on Bitcoin. Let's take a look at how Bitcoin is responding here. We keep bouncing back and forth. After Jerome Powell dropped these markets all the way down back towards 83,250, Bitcoin's trying to decide, does it want it? Is it kind of keeping this bottom position here? You can see this is a very strong level of support since back here on April 13th. This area right here around 83,000 has held up with strong support. We told you just yesterday, before Jerome Powell took the stage, before China sold $15,000 of Bitcoin, we didn't know about any of that news, right? But if you were here with us on our live show yesterday, I told all of you guys, don't be surprised to see Bitcoin go to 83,000. I even told you, you could easily see Bitcoin coming down to the 4-hour smart trail back down towards 82.5. Okay, so what you really should be looking at is we just got hit with two pieces of pretty bad news. Bitcoin or gold. Wow, can I say this correctly? China is selling Bitcoin. Gold can't sell Bitcoin. Gold doesn't own Bitcoin. China sold Bitcoin. Jerome Powell warns of potential stagflation. By the way, we never answered what stagflation was. We'll answer that here after the TA section if you're still wondering. Let me know in chat. Who here does not know what stagflation is? If everyone knows what it is, we might not answer it, but let me know in chat if you do not know. Put a 1 in chat if you know what stagflation is. Put a 2 in chat if you have no idea what we're talking about. Either way, he warns of stagflation, and yet we're staying above this pretty strong support at the moment, even finding a little bit of support here in this moment. So that's actually a very, very good sign for Bitcoin. Unlike the stock market, we're not seeing a 4-hour sell-off. We're actually seeing green reversal dot, bullish momentum. And if you look really closely, looks like the money flow is going positive once again. What does that mean? Well, it means, well, we had a 4-hour sell signal back here, right? I told you guys yesterday the reason we could go that low is because the Luxago indicators gave us red reversal, bearish momentum, negative money flow. We should be expecting a pullback back down here towards 82.5. One of the few reasons why I cancel out these sell signals or buy signals is when the opposite signal happens, right? So if I'm under a sell signal and then all of a sudden a buy signal flashes and I did not reach my target, I don't stay stubborn and say, no, I'm sticking with the sell signal. I all of a sudden have to flip. I have to go back bullish. The MACD looks like it wants to come back up. The RSI is starting to make some form of move here. Again, Luxago's oscillator, one of my favorite buy signals. In fact, I'm not going to say one of, it is my favorite buy signal, is giving us a green light here. We could see this alone on the 4-hour chart, unless there's a major order block right here. You're going to have liquidations back up here at 86.5, but you're kind of watching all the way back up at 88.5. If this 4-hour buy signal holds, you're looking at levels all the way back up here at 88.5 right now. You come down lower here, even back towards the 1-hour chart. This is where you probably did have a nice little sell signal in play. Guess where we bounced here not that long ago? Let me turn off some of the noise. We came down here very briefly. We actually broke slightly below it, but bounced almost perfectly off the bottom of the 1-hour smart trail. Now it looks like the prices do want to make some form of a look back to the upside. I'm not going to go into all the lower time frames and the scalp trading stuff. We will be doing some more scalp trading tomorrow morning at 9 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. If you want to trade with us live, come back on the channel. We'll talk there. But for right now, what we're kind of watching happen right now, we've been asking, is there going to be a moment where the crypto markets and the TradFi markets split and do opposite things? And it's too early to say that's happening right now, but we're watching the stock market respond pretty negatively to what the economy is looking like right now. We're seeing crypto actually hold up decently. And again, we're still tracking, as I talked about yesterday, a whole lot of longer term buy signals. This is going to be across multiple coins, green reversals, bullish momentums, bullish divergences, bullish momentums, positive money flow. Nothing has changed there on the daily. Nothing's changed on the 2 daily. Nothing's changed on the 3 daily. What we're waiting for, let's check it on the weekly today. What we're waiting for here is can we hold this up? I told you yesterday, can we close this week and keep this green reversal dot, this green momentum dot, and this positive money flow? Even with today's negativity, these bullish signals are still here. If these can hold up, all of a sudden, we're cooking with some grease. Looking at like low end, $90,000, not $100,000 middle range. Some signs are saying this weekly buy signal could get us back to new all-time highs by July. None of those signals are going away, despite the fact that we've been hit with 2 pretty hefty stories here today. And let's go ahead and transition here. We're going to talk about, there's some altcoin news we need to talk about in a minute. But the 2 big pieces of news, if you guys are just joining us, China this morning sold 15,000 Bitcoin worth over $2 billion, and yet the market's pumped anyway. If that had happened 3 weeks ago, 4 weeks ago, the markets would have plummeted. But today we rallied. Then here, about an hour and some change ago, Jerome Powell changed the rhetoric of what we've heard this week from Fed members, where earlier this week, Fed members are saying if the markets start dumping, if something's in trouble, we have tools to bail them out. Jerome Powell today emphatically said, no. If the markets start dumping, that does not mean we're automatically going to bail them out. He expressed concern over tariff fears that maybe stagflation could end up coming towards the United States. Let's answer that question, because some of you guys are asking the question, what is stagflation? We could look up and give you the technical definition of it, but ultimately the very simple explanation would be the Fed is always having a dual mandate. They're always concerned with 2 major things. He'll say it's called price stability. Otherwise, what's the inflation number? Are prices staying the same? Can we keep things consistent? And then unemployment, right? The Fed's whole job is to balance trying to keep low inflation and trying to keep unemployment low. The economy and how we perform has a lot to do with these 2 metrics. Stagflation is an event where it is outside of the control of any of the governing bodies to stop either of these from growing. So, inflation going up, that's bad. Unemployment going up, that's bad. But more often than not, when inflation goes up, unemployment goes down. When unemployment goes up, inflation goes down. Stagflation is when they both go to the upside and the economy's growth stops. That would be absolutely terrible if it happens. This is what would send us into a pretty brutal recession. Is it going to happen? I'm not necessarily of the opinion that it will. Let me know in the comments what you guys think. Jerome Powell didn't even say with an exclamation mark for sure it's happening. He simply expressed concern. However, if that's the case, this is going to cause some negative pressure on TradFi markets, and we're seeing that happen. However, cryptocurrency, as I've said now a couple times, not necessarily pumping, not going to the moon, not acting quite like gold, but it is holding support levels quite well. What are your guys' thoughts about all of that? If you guys just learned what stagflation is, give me a like and smash the like button and put a 1 in chat for now. Give me a thumbs up. You guys know what stagflation is. Let me know if for some reason you do not like my simple explanation of it. Tshroom, before we continue on with the news coming in the way of the altcoin market, anything you want to clean up, anything you want to add to any of what I just said about the markets, how crypto's responding, how TradFi is responding? Do you think this is maybe the beginning of a divergence between those markets? What are your thoughts about this?
I think it's too soon to know, and I don't think we're going to see stagflation in the United States because the Fed has, as much as I dislike Keynesian economics and what the Federal Reserve is as a money controller, it is essentially overpowered. Like it's not built to lose. It controls money. It controls the bond market. Yes, things could get so bad that it could lose control, but I am not seeing an economy right now that is out of the hands of the Federal Reserve. And so they're starting from a place where if the signs of stagflation started to really pick up, they could do some things about it. Now, if those signs ignored what they did about it and just overpowered their tools, that would be concerning. But that's kind of my thoughts on stagflation. I'm not worried about it. Is there a story you can tell to how America gets to stagflation? Of course, right? There's always stories you can tell, including altcoin stories. You ready to get into this altcoin story here, Tim?
Let's do it. What's happening?
Radium, one of Solana's market makers, has unveiled Launch Lab, a direct rival to Pump.Fun. That's right. Radium was up on the announcement. I don't know if it's still up because of all the macro that has come out since then. But Radium, looking to compete with Pump.Fun. Tim, what are your thoughts here? Do you want more Pump.Fun?
No, I don't. I don't want more Pump.Fun. If you guys don't know what Pump.Fun was, let's say you're newer, let's say you've only been around a couple months, there was a massive boom in meme coins. People were making a lot of money. People ended up losing a lot of money. Pump.Fun was a platform built on Solana. No insult to Solana. It's not Solana's fault. No one should be upset with Solana because Pump.Fun built on Solana. But it was a platform that was made it very simple, very easy for people to create their own personal meme coins and then promote them and creatively interact with their community and make a lot of money. But it caused a lot of problems, and there was a lot of things that just were absolutely terrible. They weren't regulated correctly. I mean, we have miners, and I'm not talking about people going into a coal mine. I'm talking about miners as in young children doing very concerning things on the internet, trying to make people pump their coin. We saw people doing just I don't even know what kind of words I want to say here. Scary and just delusional things. All of this to pretty much rip people off, to steal money, to make a quick buck. We watched, again, Solana skyrocketed. We watched meme coins start off with market caps of like 1,000, go to multiple millions. But in the process, Solana got kind of a black eye. In the process, billions of dollars were lost in crypto community. And for anyone who is newer to crypto, who maybe has no idea how cryptocurrencies work, they got a very bad taste in their mouth saying, why would I want to invest or hold cryptocurrency? It seems like this stuff is ridiculously volatile. It should be illegal. It's simply a process where certain people can steal money from other people. Pump.Fun was a walking nightmare. I never want to see it again. I am not a fan of major regulation in crypto. I think, and you guys can disagree with me, I think regulation should stop things like Pump.Fun from ever happening again. I don't want to see presidents of major nations with meme coins. I don't want to see mommy coin and daddy coin. I don't want to see celebrities do. I don't want to see these meme coins anymore, right? I feel like there should be, that's where regulation could be effective and helpful. Get rid of things like that. If you want to disagree with me, you can disagree with me. Whether we keep it or not, I'll tell you, stay away from these meme coins that pop up on things like pump.fun. Even this one, right? What's the name of this new one, Tshroom?
Well, so this isn't, I've clicked off, but this isn't a meme coin. This is essentially Radium, which is a ecosystem coin in Solana, a very, I would say, established ecosystem coin. Low risk could be a word you could use to describe it. RAY is the ticker. It's not a meme coin. It's the AMM for Solana, but it is launched essentially a competitor to Pump.Fun. Now, my thoughts are essentially a copy paste what you had to say, Tim, with the addition of it's possible that they figured out how to remove all of the terrible tendencies and nastiness that came about on Pump.Fun. Maybe the competition is actually in a positive direction, kind of like EVs are for the auto industry. It's another car, right? But it's moving the development of automobiles in a direction that's less fossil fuel, whatever. So maybe not the best clunky kind of comparison there, but that's the hope you could have here. We'll just have to see how it plays out. But why are we spending so much time on this is because Pump.Fun really caused a lot of people to get burned. A lot of those people could have come in to the crypto space and bought Solana or Polygon or Cardano or maybe Bitcoin, right? But they got sucked into this weird thing that didn't really need to happen. And so just from a user standpoint, it was not a good user experience. And those users bounced off and probably went into DraftKings or whatever else they wanted to go do next when they could have stayed in the crypto ecosystem and provided liquidity here. That's why we're spending so much time on it.
Yeah. Yeah, and I'm watching chat here, and I think some people make a lot of point. This is the problem with regulation is 99% of people probably are not going to do anything ridiculous. 1% ruins it for the other 99. I'm not saying to block people from being able to make coins. I will always advise people steer clear of meme coins. There's a very dangerous place. There's just so many ways to make money without going that, down the rabbit hole. What I would be very clear on with the regulation, though, is, again, if you looked at some of them, we're not going to get into the details here. I don't think YouTube would like for us to tell you exactly what happened. If you have no idea what I'm talking about, don't look it up. Just take my word for it. It was terrible. There were some absolutely brutal things. I do think there were people that used Pump.Fun that should be prosecutable, right? There were things that happened, I think, under current regulation, which is zero. They were legal. There's nothing you can do about it. Though some of those things should become illegal that they were doing. So I don't know. People way smarter than me have to come up with that common sense. I understand that any regulation, you lose the Wild West, but there were some very crazy, crazy things happening there that, to me, not being in the Wild West is worth it to eliminate some of those. Let's just call it what it is: evil things that happened on that site. Let's transition to solar Radium and what my thoughts are about Radium, because Tshroom raised a point that I actually agree with. Maybe Radium finds a way to solve the problem. Maybe Radium finds a way to make it so that the everyday person can create a coin and can promote themselves and can create a community and pump that coin. Maybe. And they do it in a way that's wholesome, that doesn't cross moral, ethical, and let's just be human violations, right? To build their coin. Maybe they solve all this. But the key word there is maybe. What if they don't? What if it is just Pump.Fun 2.0? And I'm not talking about seeing all the ridiculous things. I'm talking about, again, the twofold problem with Pump.Fun was not only the crazy things people would do to make money, also the amount of money being stolen. Can Radium solve it? Maybe. Hopefully. But there's no guarantee they will. And so I encourage you guys, I'll start this way. Tim Warren, this guy right here, will not invest a single dollar in this new meme coin community, right? I'm not going there. If you ask me, Tim, I love your advice. I love how you process things. Should I go invest in this? I will say, no, I don't think you should. But I'm not your boss. I'm not controlling your money. I'm not your financial advisor. If you want to take the risk, you do you. All right, you do you. Here's what I would say, though. For anyone who chooses to go this route, be cautious and be careful. Maybe this is the next great thing. Maybe you can 1,000x your money because this is going to take the world by storm. But maybe it's just another thing that costs everybody their money. Maybe it loses everything. So make sure that if you decide to take the risk on an investment like this, I talked about this a couple of days ago, use garbage money, use throwaway money, right? $50 is not going to make or break you. If you want to throw $50 in there and maybe 50,000 or $50 turns into an 1,000x, what would that be? Turn $50 into $50,000? Cool. Good for you. If you're wealthy, if you want to throw in $100, if you're a multimillionaire and you want to throw 1,000, it's just whatever. It's $1,000, not a big deal. Go for it. But if you're thinking, man, this could be really big, Pump.Fun had a moment where it made people a lot of money. Let me allocate a serious portion of my portfolio, 2, 3, 4, 5% of my portfolio into this. Think about it. Think about it twice before you do that. I don't know what your portfolio looks like. I don't know if you have $1,000 of crypto. I don't know if you have $100,000, $1 million, $1 billion. I don't know. There's lots of different people that watch this channel. Do not put a single penny more than you'd be willing to put in a trash can and burn or take to Vegas and gamble and feel okay with your weekend. Don't put a single penny over that amount into something like this new meme coin account built on Radium. I'll say here, the last thing I want to say, and we'll take a look at the Radium chart here in a second. This is also a distinct difference, at least from what I've been explained about it, right? So tell me if I'm wrong. Tell me if I'm wrong here, everybody. Tell me if I'm misspeaking here. But what did I say earlier? You can't be mad at Solana about what happened with Pump.Fun. Why? Because Solana is a layer one solution. What are layer ones? Layer ones are the equivalency if you're driving of the highway, the road. Do you blame the road? I mean, if the lines are drawn funny, maybe. But if two cars are speeding and they run into each other, do you blame the highway for the accident or do you blame the two cars? Easy. You blame the two cars. Hopefully there's no deficiency of the road. Assuming the road is good. Solana is simply the road. Layer ones are simply the road. And Pump.Fun said, you know what? We like the infrastructure of the layer one on Solana. This will make it really easy to build our product. They built their product on Solana. They drove their car on the highway called Solana. It's not Solana's fault that Pump.Fun was a colossal nightmare for investors. This one looks a little different from what I understand. This one is actually the Radium team, which is a layer one. They're investing, they're building, they're putting their reputation in the game that if this flops, it's going to affect them as well. So it's a very different situation than Solana. Be cautious, be careful. Could Radium explode? Could this new venture take off and make people a lot of money? Absolutely it could. But it also could do the exact same thing that these products have always done to this point. Crash and burn and die and cost you a lot of money. Be careful out there investing in it. Before I look at the chart, Tshroom, do you want to respond to that? Do you agree? You disagree? Comments there? You're muted. But whatever you're saying probably is really good.
I think you said it pretty well, Tim. Yeah, I really wouldn't add too much to that.
Yeah. Let's take a look at the Radium chart, though. Let's take a look at what is happening right at the moment. This is a coin, again, going back here to, we bottomed out just like everybody else back in November, December. It was a long 2023, but after October of 2023, this coin's taken off, doing very, very well. I love coins that had higher Decembers and Januaries than they had the previous March. You can see here, even with this long pullback, just like the rest of the altcoin space, it just pulled back down to those same lows that we had back in September. So as a whole, a good looking chart, right? News like this, even though I don't like it, even though I'm not going to be a user, I'm well aware that millions of people worldwide will love this story, will love what's happening. They'll think this is awesome. I think there's a trade potential here for Radium to watch this coin go to the upside. There will be at least a moment of fun before, if it does fail, it crashes and burns and dies. Let's take a look at what's happening on this space, though. I mean, just like the rest of everything else, we don't look at Radium very often. I don't hold Radium, but you had yourself a nice little buy signal way back here earlier in March. We're still under nice daily buy signals. Let's see how high these buy signals go. The 2 daily is under a buy signal. The 3 daily is under a buy signal. Let's go jump all the way to the weekly chart. The weekly chart, again, assuming we close out correctly here, the weekly chart is under a buy signal. What does this mean? This means that Radium and its explosiveness really could make its way all the way back up here closer towards $6 before it's all said and done. And again, if something like this does have even short-term bullishness, it will pump even higher. I would not be surprised to see new cycle highs. Doesn't need to get that much higher. I mean, only back, well, it's like 9x from here. But I think Radium easily could get back above all-time highs, get back above $18. I'm not telling you can't make money here. What I'm telling you is if you choose to invest in Radium, there's buy signals, there's sentiment, there's momentum, the community is going to grow. People are ready to get hurt again because they didn't learn their lesson from Pump.Fun. Money can be made. Be careful. Watch the charts. Be early to exit. Do not be the guy at the end of the party when the lights turn off who's holding everybody else's bags. Make your money fast in Radium. Get out. Go find a longer-term, legitimate project to store your value. That's my non-financial advice, but just personal advice to anyone considering a long-term Radium holding. That's what we got on the charts there for Radium. I'm going to throw it back over to Tshroom. We're going to look at some questions here, and then we're going to wrap out the show. Any thoughts from you about Radium's chart?
Yeah, take a look, Tim, at the comments, see if there's anybody asking anything interesting. Of course there is. But my thoughts here are, Tim, it's been a while since we've talked about altcoins that are down, really past the top 10. So maybe you're newer to crypto, maybe you're newer to investing, and you're coming in, you're hearing Radium. I thought that crypto was only like Solana and Cardano and Bitcoin and Ethereum and XRP. Well, rest assured, there's not. There is a lot more cryptos out there than just the ones we talk about. So when we talk about altcoins that are different from the groups of the altcoins that we talk about, just realize there's a lot more risk. There's a reason why we only talk about the cryptos that we talk about here on the channel. So, those of you who are newer to crypto, you're just coming in, you don't know a blockchain from a blockbuster, right? Just be careful. Not all blockchains are made the same. If you're very, very new, just assume that you probably just need to buy Bitcoin and study Bitcoin and, just do that for a while, 2-3 months, and then you start to feel comfortable. It'd be more appropriate to then look into Ethereum or maybe look into Solana. But don't think that if you're, 10 days into crypto and you're hearing Tim say Radium could go a lot higher, even though he's giving tons of disclaimers too, don't think that you're knowledgeable enough to make that happen. There's a lot of ways you can be tricked. And even some of the most experienced people in crypto get tricked still sometimes. So
absolutely.
Just a little disclaimer.
Couple of people commenting that the markets are pumping right now. Let's go to my screen. Bitcoin is confidently back above 84. It did just kind of get all the way back. Where did it peak at here just a couple of minutes ago? 84.5, give or take. The word pumping is a fun word. You can use it for a lot of different things. The 5-minute chart probably looks really nice here on Bitcoin. Running in some shorter term resistance here. But again, like I commented earlier, none of these charts are going to change here. Unlike the stock market right now, Bitcoin is under a 4-hour buy signal, canceling out. A couple of days ago, back on the 15th, we had a sell signal on Bitcoin. We said 82.5 was on the table. Right now, it looks like we're moving to cancel it out. We have the bullish reversal, the bullish momentum, the positive money flow. So Bitcoin looking very nicely. We're having a lot of longer term pumps as well that are not going away. So are the markets pumping right now? They're rebounding, right? We had a big drop in 30 minutes, a very fast drop. But again, holding some longer-term support, turning some of these lower charts into buy signals. You love to see it. Let's look at one altcoin before we move on. Solana, if you looked at the top coins, right, we do like to focus here. As Tshroom said, we don't go out of the top, 20 to 50 very often. The reason why is because, especially in a season right now where we're not risk-on asset, we're not a risk-on market, things are cautious. You really want to keep your picks to a minimal. You want to look at the top ones. You want to look at what we call the blue chips. Those should be your best bets for trading, for even long-term investing. Solana got a very nice bounce here off the 4-hour smart trail. So we had that sell signal yesterday. We were in a short on Solana over in our group. Some of you guys made a lot of money there on Solana. We didn't quite get our long swing trade set up. Almost everything else that we have longer swing trade setups for in our group did trigger today and are on their way, but Solana didn't quite get as low as I thought, where I did think it might make its way back down towards 121, give or take. But we did hit 123, hit that take profit on our short, and now you're starting to see it. 4-hour chart, buy signal coming in. Now, I don't like that bubble right there. That does concern me, but bullish reversal, bullish momentum, positive money flow here on the 4-hour chart. It's just this bubble with the light green. Sometimes those bubbles pop pretty severely and you get a nice little liquidation. That being said, again, longer term, why were we looking at a Solana swing trade? Because you come out here to longer time frames. The daily chart's got a bullish buy signal. The 2-daily chart has its own bearish bubble that's about to pop, but you move out even further, the 3-daily chart is under a buy signal. I can't remember, was this one a weekly? Not quite a weekly, but the 3-daily did give us a buy signal right there. We're still looking, if you want to wait a month, month and a half, 2 months, I still think Solana is making its way back up here towards 180 at the minimum. We'll see if other buy signals choose to come in, and if the large, big drop we had back here early April was the bottom, we'll have to wait on that one. But even on the short term, next couple of days, there is a lot of positivity there. Major support was hit on that 4-hour smart trail, and that 4-hour buy signal coming in gives us a short-term target. Probably, well, it's not going to give us a whole lot more. We're almost to it. Back up here towards 140, potentially as high as 156 before you start to see some resistance come in there on Solana. We will be live trading tomorrow morning at 9 a.m. Eastern Standard Time here on YouTube. We'll also do it with our VIP trading group at noon. I encourage you guys, this is the last week that we're doing all of these live shows every single day at 3 p.m. Last week, we're doing Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday, live shows in the morning. Come trade with us tomorrow and Friday. After that, Monday morning live trading here on YouTube, and Wednesday afternoon live trading, live shows. Everything else live is going to be over in that VIP trading group. But if you want to make money, whether we're bullish or bearish, you want to learn how to read the charts, you want to spend time with some great minds and great people, come join the VIP trading group. Come join the Investing Bros community today. You will not regret it. Smay, it's time for you to come on up here for everyone's favorite part of the show on this wacky, woeful, wonderful Wednesday. It's time for the factoid of the day. Smay, take it away.
Tim, I have to say, thinking it's a wonderful one. All right, let's jump into the factoid of the day, brought to you by Decrypted.tax. Wow. Here we are. Which famous... I also just want to say real quick, before I read this, I'm very excited. I want you guys to join the free Discord. B, I want to say real quick, I just today got tickets to the Celtics' first round of the playoffs.
Oh, wow.
Because they are going to be in Orlando, because Orlando won the play-in tournament. So they're going to be right down south of me.
Go Magic.
So I get to... No,
Did you get me a ticket? Did you get me a ticket to go with you?
No, I didn't. So anyways...
No, we were friends.
You said you don't like the NBA. Anyways,
I would go with you just to hang out.
Yeah, well, I'm not going to buy you a ticket for... Anyways, which famous rapper released his own NFT collection and claimed to have made over $1 million in just a day? A, Drake. B, Snoop Dogg. C, Eminem. Or D, Kanye West.
I feel like Kanye West did do this, but I could see another one of these guys doing it well, and then it's a trick question. Here would be the dilemma. This might not be Kanye West, because Kanye West would have claimed to make $2 billion or $2 million in a day. $1 million is too little for him.
That is very flawed reasoning. I'm going to go Bravo on this one.
Yeah, I was going to go Snoop Dogg as well. I know he has an NFT collection. Again, and I'm assuming Kanye West does as well, but I feel like Kanye West is too easy, too on the nose. I think it's been there to throw us off. I think Snoop Dogg B is the right answer.
All right, ladies and gentlemen.
Yeah.
It's C!
Wow, we faked this out there.
I'm kidding. It's B!
Okay. Oh, wow.
It's
so
B!
now you just lied.
You guys are correct.
You didn't give me a ticket, and you lied to us.
No, Tim, Anyways, guys, so...
That's it? That's all you got? Okay. All right. I see how it is, man. I see how it is. Listen, I thought we were friends. I thought we hung out, especially now that we share the same state. Just figured we would look for opportunities to hang out, but clearly you thought otherwise. Congratulations to a lot of people in chat and me and Tshroom for getting that factoid correct. All right, before the comments say that I'm mean to you, Smay, I love you, and I'm butthurt because I wanted to hang out with you, and I'm going to miss an opportunity. So I love you, and that is why I'm so upset right now. Everybody else, can't wait to see you tomorrow morning for more live trading. It was a great day taking a day off, but I'm going to get back to the grindstone tomorrow. Let's make some money tomorrow morning. Everybody else, smash that like button on your way out if you're new here and you enjoyed the woeful or the wonderful Wednesday, whatever you want to call it. Make sure you're subscribed to the channel so you don't miss any of our content. We'll see you tomorrow, same time, same place. Adios.